So how's it going, guys? I hope you guys are having a fantastic day today, and welcome to another video. Now, at the time of recording this video, it's been about a week or two that I've used the ROG Ally X. I was planning to do some Black Ops 6 PC handheld testing, but then I realized that my brother has my original ROG Ally, and he literally has it in college right now, so I can't just travel 3-4 hours to grab it. So I decided this would be a perfect opportunity to just pick up the ROG Ally and then not just play Call of Duty, but just to try it out and test out the ROG Ally and see what I think about it and whether or not it drastically improves the experience from the original ROG Ally. So I'll just be going into it as the perspective of someone who has actually owned a Z1 Extreme ROG Ally. So let's get into it. Alright, so first let's talk about the ergonomics and feel of it. So first of all, I can say this without a doubt. This thing feels way more ergonomic and way nicer to play games than the ROG Ally, but I still don't think that it's as good as the Steam Deck in my personal opinion, and let me explain. So the ROG Ally X basically has much more rounded and a much nicer grippy texture as the grips. Combine that with a thicker chassis, and it feels a lot nicer to play games on the hand. With the original ROG Ally, I found myself kind of cramped just because of how flat and angled the grips were. They just weren't comfortable to hold at all, and so for the most part, I think what Asus has done here is great, and they've significantly improved the ergonomics, no question about it. But I still think the Steam Deck is much more ergonomic in my personal opinion, but it's a massive improvement from the ROG Ally. Another thing too is just the button placement and I guess the feel of the joysticks and the buttons. The ABXY and the sticks felt a little loose on the ROG Ally, and these ones feel a lot tighter, and the sticks themselves actually feel a lot nicer. So definitely an improvement there, and the triggers are larger too. They actually feel much better than the original one, surprisingly. Just a lot of nice little improvements just to tightening up the control scheme of the ROG Ally compared to the original models. So yeah, it's really nice, really good improvements there. So yeah, applaud Asus for that. Next up, let's talk about performance. Now, just to get it out of the way here, playing games on my ROG Ally X doesn't feel any different than playing games on the original one in terms of performance wise. For the most part, I'm seeing basically around the same frame rates, maybe a little bit better 1% lows because of the extra RAM, but inherently they're the same chip. So for most games that I've tested and played, which you'll be seeing here, I didn't really see a massive upgrade in terms of performance, which is to be expected. As I know before, they are running the same chip, so I'm not that surprised. What I am surprised though is the battery. This thing is a total powerhouse when it comes to battery. This is probably the first PC handheld that I've used and tested that I can comfortably bring without a power bank. It actually feels like a true console handheld, if that makes any sense. Basically, going through and just playing, for example, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, I was playing some zombies at the 17 watt mode. I could play 10-15 rounds, which is like 45 minutes to an hour, and it only drains 20% of the battery. That is extraordinary. That is substantially better than any PC handheld I've tested previously, and it is a noticeable improvement, way more than I expected. And even with more demanding games, I am shocked to see how well the battery life is, especially in the turbo mode. And that's something else, like because of that larger battery life, you're more comfortable to run the turbo mode because you won't be running into the same power battery issues. Some other things I do want to point out too that are nice to have is one, an extra USB-C cord, so you don't have to bring a dongle if you want to plug in two USB-C devices, like maybe you want to plug in power and an external SSD there. It's an option now, and you can plug in an external GPU that's not proprietary, so that's really nice. The SD card slot did move, so this area should not be experiencing the same SD card issue, which is nice. The fingerprint sensor is just the same as it was in the original ROG Ally, so no complaints there. I love having this fingerprint sensor. And yeah, for the most part, the ROG Ally X is a refinement of the ROG Ally, and for what it is, even though performance is not a significant improvement, the areas that they did improve on in a lot of cases are significant improvements, right? It's way more nicer to grip and play for long hours. The battery life is a massive improvement, and it helps you you can game for it for more than like 2-3 hours sometimes. It's great. It just overall is a very, very, very perfected version of the ROG Ally. But with that being said, this is probably going to shock you given how much I sang my praises about the ROG Ally X. I'm heavily considering returning it, and there's two very specific reasons on why I'm heavily considering returning it. Number one, let's talk price. This thing is not cheap. $800 is a lot of money, especially when you can get Z1 Extreme ROG Allies and Legion Goes, which performance-wise and performance speaking, they're basically around the same. I mean, sure, you don't get the battery life that this thing does, but like performance-wise, they're just around the same. You can get those things now for like 500 to 600 bucks, and at that price, you're paying a lot more money just to get extra battery life, in my personal opinion. So in that perspective, I just don't see the value here. There's a lot of nice things here, but if you're someone like me who already has an ROG Ally, I don't know if shelling out $800 more just to get a better battery life is worth it. And that's not even counting the fact that Z2 Extreme is coming around the corner. At least AMD confirmed that, at least. We should be expecting Z2 Extreme to be dropping sometime in early 2025, which means PC handhelds with Z2 Extremes, I can see them releasing in late spring, early summer, which is not a lot of time, in a couple months, basically. And honestly, for how much this thing costs, I'd rather just wait and splurge that money on a Z2 Extreme handheld instead of an existing or older Z1 Extreme, in my personal opinion. And number two, I think, is just basically for my specific use case. I don't really need another PC handheld for the most part. I mean, I have my Steam Deck here, but nowadays I don't really touch it just because of the fact that for the most part, I play games on my Xbox Series S and my PC. When I go out and about, especially on like stuff like work and lunch breaks, I don't tend to bring a PC handheld as I'm working on other things such as projects, scripts, and other stuff. So literally at home is where I have the most time to just sit down and play some games. And at that point, I don't need this thing. I just hop onto my PC or whatever. So for my specific use case, I can't justify paying this much money for a device that I'm barely going to touch outside of potentially just making extra content. So yeah, I mean, I strongly encourage all of you guys, if you guys are considering to purchase this handheld, to really figure out if you actually need a PC handheld or if you actually want one. Don't get me wrong. This is probably the best Windows handheld that you can get right now. And if any of you guys are in the market for a Windows handheld right now, this is probably the best one in the current market that you can purchase. But I highly implore you guys to really think about your use case and the games you play, because perhaps you'll be better suited off waiting down the line for a next generation ROG Ally with a Z2 Extreme, or maybe like a console is better suited for you. Just really think about it, because this is a lot of money that you're splurging on a PC handheld, so keep that in mind. Overall, it's been a pleasant experience with the ROG Ally X, but as I've noted with the reasons before, I'm probably just going to return this device, and it'll probably be better off in the hands of someone who actually needs this device or really, really wants it and doesn't have like a PC or whatever. So yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and be ready for Z2 Extreme PC content whenever that drops, whenever I can splurge the money for it and when they release. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Later.